Hello and welcome to Crane Talk, a podcast that covers all things cranes, rigging, and heavy iron. My name is Isaac Smith, and today I'm joined by three experts in the industry, Ron Thompson, Gene Greiner, and a special guest. Who'd like to introduce our guest today?
I'd love to. It's Billy Woolf. He is the acting safety director for Davis Crane Service, one of the largest crane and rigging companies in the country, actually. And so I've got to work closely with Billy over the last couple of years, and it's fun to watch him in action. I mean, just the safety culture that I've seen transition under Billy has been less than remarkable. I mean, it's been awesome. So, Billy Woolf, welcome to the pod, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Gene, you got anything to say?
Yeah. Billy, over the last couple of years, there's been quite a lot of transition, within how Davis is insured and how Davis is structured. And it's been awesome to watch, how you guys have responded to the challenges and, to all the opportunities that have been out there. And so it's been pretty cool. I know we got a meeting later today about, how all the captive stuff works and everything. And I don't know if we'll even get to that on the pod, but it's been cool. So glad to have you. Glad that you can share, a little bit about what you're up to, with this whole audience, because it's pretty cool stuff. So.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely been a whirlwind, a lot of, learning curves for myself, for the company itself. But I think we've adapted pretty well to it. So nothing but up for us.
Well, you're always one phone call away, right? You could have everything going according to plan. And just the nature of the beast in the heavy construction crane rigging market, you're one phone call away that nobody wants, but you will get it. I think Billy has reduced those one phone calls quite a bit.
Yeah.
We get them, but not as frequent as we had before. So, it's a high hazard business. And when you get into this, just the controlling the risk and the loss mitigation, it all starts, with the top level management supporting the safety director's job. And the safety director, Billy always find that a good safety director, you have the hearts and minds of your people. They got to believe in you. If you mess up, we're gonna address that. If it's a near miss, we're gonna address that near miss, because near misses lead into actual losses. Tell me, how did you really transition in changing the culture, safety culture at Davis?
I think one of the biggest things for me is, I started out in the field with Davis and working side by side with a lot of the guys and gals that are out there is what's made the transition a little bit easier for me, and being able to communicate with the folks in the field. They understand that I know what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. Surrounding myself with people that are smarter than I am, that have expertise, that's been in the crane business a lot longer than myself, taking their experience, listening to them. There's one gentleman that's on my team, as a matter of fact, Jason Nickel. He's been out there. He's got double the time that I have. If I have questions on a near miss, for instance, that I may not fully comprehend or understand, I can lean on him a little bit, to get some of that expertise. One of our A&D directors that we have, Craig Schneider, I can reach out to him as well and kind of go over that. One of the biggest things that I think has really helped with our safety culture in general is the accountability aspect of things. We've really changed that to where everyone is being held to the same standard. That's from management down. That's not just our field guys. We've kind of had to step back and look ourselves in the mirror and ask, what can we do better? It's not just the guys in the field that has issues. It could be the way that we're explaining something to the guys, to our field employees, that they may not have a full comprehension of what we're trying to get through to them. I guess that's kind of the biggest thing, I guess you could say, is management team themselves have really started looking at ourselves and asking ourselves what we could do better.
And they've backed you on that too, from the outside looking in. Davis is also a company that has companies within its umbrella, and it's geographically diverse, right? You've got, Abilene, Austin, Dallas-Fort Worth, and all these different locations. Has it been hard to implement that accountability piece across, the other Davis companies that are in different geographic areas? Or how did that process take place, across the scope and breadth of, the organization, right?
Right. The transition, I wouldn't say that it was difficult by any means.
Yeah, good.
It's been a buy-in from the top down, from Dennis Davis down.
Yeah.
And it has been a pretty smooth transition, to be quite honest. We're all pretty fortunate, to have an owner that's as involved as he is, and as supportive as he is with the operations side of things, that is very open to listen to new ideas, as well as be as big of a player and a part of things, and be as involved. One that's willing to go out there and get his hands dirty with the guys in the field. And he's very understanding. So the management at all the other locations it makes it that much easier.
Sure.
To get that across when you have someone that is able to convey that to his management team.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Dennis Davis. He's got an open door policy, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
I've been out there quite a few times, and his office is down below, pretty close to the reception area. And every time I walk by and he's in his office, I just walk in and start chatting. He's always had time for me, and I'm assuming that carries over to anybody at Davis Crane. It's not a closed door where he's on the 5th floor and you can't get to him. He's right there.
Absolutely. And that's, that's one thing I wish more people would take the time, and naturally a lot of people see an owner of a company, they tend to shy away and get shy, when they see him out walking the yard, which Dennis does quite often, and they don't really take that time, to talk to him. I wish they would do that more. They would get to see the man that does care about his people. And that one of his biggest things, he sits there in a safety meeting and he tells everybody, I want to see you go home the same way you come.
Sure.
And that's one of his biggest deals. And he says it every time he gets a chance, and he means it. It's not something that he just says. And I wish people would take that time to really talk to him when he's out there walking around, because he makes himself readily available for anybody, and he'll talk to anybody.
Instead of making like a warning call, somebody walks out into the yard, you hear
Yeah.
you starting out in the field, you might actually know all the calls,
But he's generally there, to see and greet. When I was loading an RT before, hey, is there something I can help you with? No, I don't need help, to do it. I never took the offer. I'm sure he jumped right in there and started, buckling down the chains if he wanted him to, but I never took that opportunity. I did have conversations with him, but I have no doubt whatsoever that he'd have jumped in there and, started binding the ratchet binders, if I needed him to.
Sure.
What I've noticed with crane companies, they're very protective of their yards. So most of the crane clients that we have spotters. So the word gets around pretty quick. If you're not an employee or somebody that's not driving up in a dually, word gets around pretty fast. And I've been spotted quite a bit before I even walked into the office. It's pretty funny. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not saying it happens at Davis, Managing resistance. You're there to build safety culture and safety protocol, but probably everybody doesn't go along with it. So there's times where, safety's first. Something else happens. So how do you manage resistance like that?
I think managing the resistance part of it, in management, you have to be a chameleon. Okay. You have to get to know your people, know what makes them tick to a degree. And once you're able to get on that level with the people, I think a lot of the resistance goes away, to be quite honest. If you can get on that personal level with them, you can really achieve the desired outcome that's best for not necessarily just the company, but them as an individual themselves, to make sure they go home to their family the same way, and they believe that you're looking out for them and their family, and it's not just you looking out for the company. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that you have to let your people know, is that it is about them, that it's not necessarily about the company. Yes, that is an aspect of it. It does help the company overall, but at the end of the day, it is about that person and about them going home the same way that they came.
What I've noticed about you, Billy, is this. You're not happy with status quo. And what I'm talking about, you take the gig as safety director at Davis, but you're always doing things to improve your knowledge, where it might be on the legal side, where it might be on the multi-employer doctrine as far as ASME 30.5. And let me go to that. We had a situation maybe 3 or 4 months ago where Davis was blamed on a claim, a rigging loss. Come to find out, there were other multi-employers out there that Billy goes, let's look at the lift director. Let's look at who set up the placement of the crane. Let's set up who is directing the operator. And we were successful on using the multi-employer doctrine, which is ASME 30.5, to get out of a claim. So not only just the safety culture and managing that, you're also getting very induced to the legal side of it, and understanding the responsibilities of what a crane operator does on a job site. So I've seen you morph into those areas. Talk a little bit about that. Or you're constantly looking to improve.
Yeah, I think it's an evolving situation. I think our industry has become more litigious. I think the environment that we're operating in has become very volatile. I think the legal side of things is one of our vulnerabilities, and I think the more knowledge base that I have there, the better off I am to protect not only our people, but the way we make a living.
Billy, you had to go there, man. You had to open that door on the litigation. A sidebar, Billy and myself both went to Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill back on March 3rd. Giving examples. Billy gave some great examples about what he witnessed at Davis Crane Company on some claims in the litigation environment. So the tort tax in Texas, that means the additional money a house of 4 that is paying is $4,200, Billy?
Yes, sir, roughly.
Okay. All right. So when a family of 4 has another $4,200, I think it increases higher insurance premiums, homeowners, auto, everyday goods, groceries, to gas. Everything is involved in creating that tort tax. So with the tort reform under review right now in many states and now at the federal level, how is this putting a burden on Davis as far as investing back into assets, investing back into culture? Talk a little about how the tort reform is much needed because it's affecting what you guys do to grow the business.
Well, with the tort reform itself, the way that the trial lawyers are abusing the system and the way that it's set up, all the information's not getting out there to the jurors. The playing field is not level. And you have a lot of Yes, we're in the crane business. We're also on the trucking side. I mean, we have to obviously get from point A to point B. That's one of the biggest challenges that we face. And I'm sure it's not just our crane company that faces those challenges. Everybody sees the billboards going up and down the highway. It's always, I'm not going to name the names. I'd love to, but I'm sure they'd come after me for it, which probably wouldn't care too much about it. But it affects us being able to invest back into the company, put better equipment on the road, give our employees bonuses, the raises. It reduces that, and it causes staff to manage the company a little bit different and take into account that some of that money that we're having to take into account that the insurance costs are going to go up due to some of the claims that we're paying out that are fraudulent claims. The system has made it a lot easier for the plaintiff attorneys to claim all these damages, run these bills up. They're working with certain doctors, certain venues, such as Dallas County, your Harris County, Bexar County, Travis County. Those are all plaintiff-friendly venues in the state of Texas that you're having nuclear verdicts.
Not to mention they're well-funded as well through litigation funding.
Oh, absolutely. And that funding comes from, third party funding. And that could be China that's investing in these lawsuits. A lot of people don't know that. That's not readily available information that, unless you're digging for it and looking for it, they don't let that be known. And it's unfortunate that the taxpayer pays for it at the end of the day. Some people that are out there not working, it's working the system, doesn't really affect. But all of us that are out there working pay for it. Each household pays for it, just like you mentioned.
So these sovereign wealth funds, the Chinese, the North Koreans, are investing in American plaintiff litigation funding.
It's a big return, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they may invest in 10 of them. As long as one of them hits, they're going to get their money back on it,
So when your insurance on the P&L, Billy, I'm just looking back over a period of 5 years, arguably say it might have tripled. I don't know. It could be more, could be a little less, but it's up there. That takes away and putting back money into new equipment, maybe developing and broadening your safety programs, maybe, creating, maintenance where you're not funding as much. I'm not saying Davis, but I'm saying overall, it's affecting everything you do as far as building a safety culture. You're actually putting more resource in the insurance premium just to stay one step ahead because of the plaintiff litigation. And you're trying to create new jobs for folks that are coming into this industry. Let's face it, it's an aging industry. We need new development, new talent coming in. So it hinders all those aspects of your operation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does.
Well, and the other thing is like, you see all the billboards and you see all the narrative of, the big bad trucking companies, the big bad corporations that are employers. And what's interesting to me is like, it's lost on everybody that here we are with Billy, the director of safety of Davis Crane. Like, your family's on the road too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, don't let that be lost on anyone that we're going to or that you would somehow shortchange. And you're an exceptional safety director, but it's not like there's people out there in these positions in these companies that are intentionally trying to shortchange, the safety of everyone around them, like at least anybody who we work with. I'm sure that's out there, but like for the most part, these companies that have been around a long time, that are doing it the right way, that are investing in the people to build these safety programs, like your family's on the road too. Like,
absolutely. And I mean, we've been around since 1961.
Yeah.
We haven't been around that long because, we're careless, because we're reckless, and we're not investing back into the safety.
Right.
One of the biggest misconception is, well, it's greed,
right.
They're going to, place their profits over safety. One of the biggest things that I think is laughable that I've heard quite a bit is about the profits. Well, it's about the company making the profit. Every one of us in America has the opportunity to go out and start a business. There's nothing that stops us from doing that. And I tell everybody, I never got a job from a poor man. We all have that same opportunity. If you don't like this man out here profiting from the business that he started, go start your own. See what it takes to do it. It's not your name on the side of that truck. You're not paying for that truck. You're not paying for the maintenance. You're not paying, the person that's going down the road. All you have to do is get in the vehicle and drive it and go down the road. You don't have all the worries. The person that is invested in that company is entitled to some sort of profit, right? But I think that there's a big misconception that there's a whole lot more profit than they're actually making and not investing back into the company. That's not for everybody's information,
that's
to know.
Not what's being told.
No.
Like in the courtrooms through, the reptilian type logic and theory, they're spinning a very different narrative than what you just said. Like the owner knows, if I don't invest in safety to protect my people and protect this company and to make sure we're doing things the right way to avoid the catastrophes and avoid the stuff that we can avoid. Like if I don't do that, this company's not going to be around very long.
Absolutely.
Whether it's regulatory issues or people just don't want to work for a company that's not well run and unsafe to go to. Like generally nobody wants to do that, right? So they're going to lose the business. But changing that narrative is it's an uphill battle. What's funny is, speaking of the billboards, like they're everywhere, right? But Ron and I are on our way back from San Antonio. In fact, it's near Temple, I think. I'll be in Temple tomorrow. But we saw a bill. He was riding passenger. I'm driving, and Ron goes, "What? Look up!" There was a billboard on 35 headed north, and it said, "Stop lawsuit abuse."
Yeah.
And we were like, it's the first one we've ever
First billboard we've seen.
Yeah. He was trying to take a picture of it out the passenger window and it was blurry. We're like, we got to document this.
Yeah. And that's, I believe there's supposed to be a few more. I don't recall who exactly it is that's been putting those up, but I know TXTA has been pretty vital in working towards trying to bring a lot of attention to the lawsuit abuse and everything. And I believe Ron's kind of jumped on board. You guys have jumped on board with being a part of that and kind of seeing how all that, the inner workings work on that as well.
When we were at Capitol Hill, the one thing that our representatives want to hear, it's horror stories from their constituents. The companies that operate in Texas, and Texas has been traditionally a pro-business state. Record numbers of companies are still coming to Texas, but they better check the jurisdiction they're moving to, because there are some judicial hellholes in Texas. And I never thought about that until I started diving into this stuff. If I'm relocating a company, I'm going to relocate the county, their view on being plaintiff friendly. Those are stuff I never thought about before.
Well, the insurance companies are doing it.
They are.
They're looking at where the business is located. They're looking at that jurisdiction and where they've had success and have been absolutely railroaded. I mean, they're looking at it. If you're based in Dallas County or Bexar County or Harris County, those are different rating structures than if you're located, in the Panhandle or something like that. Like they're looking at it too.
Well, and any of our mediations that we go into, I mean, that's one of the first things they're looking at. They're looking at the judge that's over it, how they've ruled on the cases, obviously the county in which it's in. A lot of that goes into determining whether they're going to settle a case regardless of how strong the case may be. I mean, we've had cases that's been in Dallas County that, for instance, the one that we had with the one-wheel electric skateboard.
It was Denton County moved to Dallas County.
And the gentleman himself was essentially trying to surf, or however you want to call it, on the side of the crane. No real injuries. Essentially, the board was kicked out from the wheel with the turn, kind of threw him away from the crane, had a couple of bruises, and that was it, up throwing his hands and everything. And they settled it out for $3 million. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. We had eyewitnesses and everything for the case.
Well, wasn't that a forum shopping case where they moved it from Denton County, a more conservative jurisdiction, to Dallas County?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's one of the things that needs to be addressed in the Texas legislature. You rely on states to change laws, and when they don't, you go to the federal level. And the one thing that caught Senator Ted Cruz's ears was staged accidents.
Yeah.
When you start talking about fraud, his ears perked up, right, Billy?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We should use that example for fraud and name it the either the Back to the Future or the Michael J. Fox law. You remember that movie where he's grabbing onto the truck with his hoverboard?
Last week I was in a mediation, and I asked the insurance for all the documentation because I'm building a file on each one of these attorneys that are taking advantage of the system.
Yeah.
And this particular case that we had settled out for $550,000. Our expert witness, the average for the total bills that were claimed was $50,000. That's what the total would have been on average. The attorney was claiming $400,000 worth of medical bills.
Mm.
So what does that increase? $50,000 to $400,000. So the insurance company took that into consideration. Now they're going to go in and settle it out. They're going to take 70%, of that off and everything else, settle that out. They're not going to pay anywhere near that $400,000 for those medical claims. I was ready to take it to trial.
Yeah.
But they told me that it would cost more to take it to trial. The problem with that is it still counts against us as the insured. At the end of the day, it counts against us. And we have no say on whether it's settling or not. That's a problem in itself.
Well, nobody's going to make the call if the insurance company says, sure, have a day. But if you lose, it's.
So that's we're not going to dive really deep specifically into the insurance program for Davis, but that's changed a little bit where Davis does have more input. And that's the issue. The insurance carriers, when you got $1 million sitting there on plaintiff's side, they've raised from sovereign wealth funds, private equity companies, investors. You have $1 million bank versus an insurance carrier that says we're going to put up $25,000 for defense because our allocated expense to defend this case, we've been given permission only to put up $25,000. So when plaintiff brings in neuroscientists, expert causation witnesses, making the crane company the worst crane company that ever lived, plus our clients got brain tissue damage from a bumper damage, who's going to win that battle? And that's where the system is broken. On the medical, Florida actually says, we're going to go another way. We're tired of plaintiff lawyers building up, inflating these medical bills, where you actually, if you send it to Medicare, they're going to pare it down. That $700,000, only $60,000 is really legitimate. Florida is using the Medicare standards to cap the medical losses. Now, why is that important? When a lawyer asks for $20 million, I got $1 million in medical. Actually, 60,000 was actually validated. Guess where that 20 million goes? Well, they're wanting 10 all day long, but they're asking for 20. Now you cut my medical from $1 million down to 60. That 20 comes down to maybe 500,000. You see what I'm saying? So the medical is actually the anchor that starts building these humongous demands. And, plaintiff lawyer is going to ask for as much as they want, as much as they can. Now, one other thing, Allstate just filed an $8 million RICO lawsuit in a Houston medical facility.
Really?
They found out that the treating doctors and physicians were inflating medical bills for plaintiff lawyers, where there might have been some interest from the plaintiff lawyers into the medical facilities. So that's a RICO lawsuit that Allstate just filed back in mid-April. So that's what's got to happen. Also in Florida, they're going to hold judges accountable. So if the judges are not going by the statutes passed in Florida, then they can be sanctioned. So they're actually addressing some of this in Florida. Still to be determined here in Texas.
Well, and if you look at Florida as well, the insurance companies have started going back into Florida as well.
There's a rate reduction this year.
That's what I was fixing to say. The rate reduction and everything, it drives those costs back down, and it's good for all the consumers. And everybody that's out there driving down the road legitimately that has the insurance and everything, it's a win-win for them. Those are the people that we need on the jury, that understand and they need all the information.
We talked to this in our last podcast. I think 22 additional insurance companies have entered the Florida market since the governor passed tort. Companies are filing for a 15% decrease on auto rates. Texas, carriers are filed for a 25% increase for the 2026. That's what was told by people that are negotiating with reinsurance companies. So it's working. Georgia passed some reform. Let's give them some credit. Iowa did. Louisiana did some reform. So our next session is in 2027, right, Billy? Yes. That's when their next session meets. And this will be brought up again. And we missed it last year. And there's no fix. The insurance carriers can't fix it. The First Amendment allows attorneys to advertise on billboards, social media. How many times, Gene, when you get a report from a client on an automobile accident, you're still kind of waiting for details. How fast and how often is that letter of representation from a plaintiff lawyer ends up in your email?
It's quick. I mean, it could be within days, and they don't even have all the facts yet, but they're already sending over the letter. It's just kind of like everybody's been conditioned. Well, if this happens to me, then I'm going to automatically call this person, and they're just going to do their thing and run away with it. So, it's quick. It's really quick. And that's back to like what you're doing, you're involved on the front end of things, making sure that you can eliminate predictive accidents, right? Having the hearts and minds of everybody. I've been in there. I've been in your shoes. I understand what this takes. We're all working together here instead of just talking really down to somebody. I mean, unless I deserve it, but, the people that genuinely understand where you're coming from are going to appreciate that. But then, as Ron's been saying, you've been very involved on the backside of claims too, in the depositions and the mediations and all of the, issues coming out of how insurance carriers are dealing with it. And then you ultimately get to see that accident or that claim move to fruition, whether positively or negatively, right? And so you're seeing the entire spectrum of what happens here. And I think it's pretty powerful because at least within your organization and with the audience here, like, I think that's the right approach, especially here in Texas, like having the really top view down of, okay, here's the pathways that these accidents can take. And this is where it ultimately ends up. and this is how it can ultimately hurt the company or hurt you or whatever. Like, it's just really powerful, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, I really think you have to have an understanding of what your people are going through.
Yep.
I think that's one of the biggest things that aid me in my management is starting in the field, knowing what those guys are going through. Every once in a while, when I get a chance, I still go out there and I'll work side by side with them, not as a manager. I'm out there to work side by side with them as a coworker. Obviously, if I see something that's not right, I say something. But for the most part, I'm working side by side with them as an employee. But things have changed over a short period of time, even from when I was out there with them. Mm. I ask them every safety meeting, to do their part, to pay attention, watch the other people on the road. It seems as if, the Texas Department have just handed licenses, out. I don't think that we've done as good of a job as far as making sure people truly are qualified to drive a motor vehicle, a regular car down the road. Mm. Phones are obviously such a big distraction nowadays. I think more people are preoccupied with other things than actually driving a vehicle. So I ask our people to really drive for other people. So in turn, me asking them guys and our employees to do their part on the road, it's also my responsibility on the backside to do everything I can to help them out. And that's, going and testifying, in Austin or going to DC and talking up there to try to work on getting laws changed, and really bringing light to some of the issues that we're having there.
You have a pretty powerful why, if somebody is not listening to the direction that you're giving or the advocacy that you're working on, all that points to a really powerful why. So it probably makes it pretty easy when you're dealing with people in the field or in the office or whatever, like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's all the things that I've been working on. Here's how all this impacts the company. This is the why.
Absolutely.
And if you can understand and appreciate the why, then this is going to be a great relationship. If you can't, then, we've got to hold you accountable, And so I think it's just super powerful because, like I said earlier, you're involved from cradle to grave.
Absolutely. And the more that people understand why you're asking them to do something, the more you get out of them. It doesn't matter if they agree with it or not. If they can understand and you're giving them more than just because I said so.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They tend to respect that more, and they tend to put a little bit more effort into it. You just get more out of them because it's more compassion than anything, to be quite honest. So
you mentioned distracted driving. Personal experience last week. I happened to be in Aruba. It was business related. We had about 100 of us on a chartered bus taking us from one place to the next. And I was in the very front seat. And a tourist driving a rented vehicle, 2 lanes, pulled coming right at us head first into a bus. And the bus driver slammed on the brakes, and we're all like, he goes, it happens all the time. These tourists are on their phones looking for direction and causing crashes. And it was a rented vehicle, probably a U.S. tourist on their phones coming right at a chartered bus with 100 people. So it was really scary, man. Billy, we always kind of end on a little personal note, man. First of all, tell us how you got this gig at Davis.
One of the gentlemen I worked with before, Blake Wisdom, I worked with him at Glacier Foods. He called me and asked me if I was interested in running their heavy haul for them. And told him I was pretty content where I was at, and told him to give me some information. and I would pass it along to some people I knew. The more we talked, I said, I might be interested in this deal. And that's when I came over, and one thing kind of led to another, and we lost our DOT person, and he let John Johnson or Westdow, one of them, know that they had a safety DOT person in the yard. And he told him, I used to do it at Glacier Foods over there. And ever since then, I went to DOT, and then the safety person prior to me stepped down, and stepped into that role, and everything else is kind of smooth sailed from there.
So I've seen Billy in his Payne Stewart golf attire. So, Billy, tell us what you do outside of Davis. I know golfing is one. I saw your get-up, man, and it was pretty impressive, to say the least.
Well, I golf whenever I'm called to for work. Outside of that, I spend a lot of time on motorcycles and at the lake with the kiddos. So I'm pretty big with the family.
Met your lovely wife. She was with us in Washington, D.C. Got to spend a couple of days with her. Beautiful wife. And, man, we're just glad to have you, Billy. It's you've done an awesome job for our standpoint, being a partner on the risk management insurance side. It's always good for us to have that good working relationship with the safety director, because a lot of our stuff interchanges. We cross over, and now we're on this team, you and I and Gene, so let's see what we can do to get ears on maybe passing some lawsuit abuse reform in the legislature. That's where it starts. Otherwise, it's not going to be fixed by the insurance carriers or Gene and myself or you. It's got to be passed through legislation to reduce some of the ammo that's in the plaintiff lawyer's arsenal.
Absolutely. And I bring our story to the table. I can pitch that, sell that, and show that. You guys coming on board and you going to DC and stuff really opens up, and you're able to tell your other client stories. And you guys have more stories to tell than just ours. And it's not just an isolated incident within just our company. The more stories that we can get out there, the more participation we can get, the more voices that are represented out there in all for Texans, the better off we're going to be to get some reform passed.
This is what we're seeing too. Fender benders are being turned into the liability carriers. And then the next thing, we have our liability insurance companies asking us to place the umbrella carrier on notice. And we're going, wait a minute. You don't have to sit in front of reinsurers at renewal when you have 4 or 5 umbrella claims just reserved, nothing paid. We're getting more of that, Gene, where they're wanting us to place the umbrella carriers on notice for fender benders because they're all shell-shocked. This thing could be a $5 million case when you got a bumper damage. And so we're kind of saying, let's look at all the facts. Don't want to notify the umbrella carriers on every little dent, because at renewal, the umbrella carriers go, we got 5 open cases here. We don't have anything paid, but we do have recorded instances. So
yeah, 100%. I'm seeing massive claims come out of, even ancillary type stuff, hired and non-owned, giant claims coming out of stuff you don't even own. Giant claims coming out of uninsured, underinsured, where you're not even at fault. The layer trapping and all the umbrella policies and how they fight with each other. Like, it's the system right now is set up 100%, just like we've been talking about, in favor of plaintiff counsel, and the insurance carriers are just trying to hang on. It's a butter knife and a gunfight without question.
And the plaintiff attorneys know, and they're going to take full advantage of that.
100%.
That they're a lot of times they're going to lay down. You start fighting them back, and they start knowing they've got a little pressure back on them.
Well, here's what's interesting is, like, no one on this table or no one in this industry is trying to say we need to sway the favor to the insurance company.
No,
that's the last thing we're saying. What we want is just a level, equitable playing field when it comes to a disagreement and a claim.
Absolutely.
That's it. Like, and right now that teeter-totter is, slammed to the ground one way. So, yeah, it's just inequitable. It's not fair.
That's not at all.
Yeah.
Gene, you got the tribe. You got the trips, and you got a daughter. You got the 3 boys, triplets, and the daughter. Are you going to advise them to become crane insurance brokers?
So I don't know. We haven't thought that far ahead yet. Actually, my boys are I was talking to them yesterday. They're way into baseball. And so we had a baseball tournament this weekend, and we were the number 1 seed coming out of pool play. And then bracket play got rained out yesterday, right? And so we're all sitting around the house enjoying Mom, And Mom was kind of bummed too, because she wanted to spend Mother's Day at the ball fields. Like, we're into what they're into, And I was like, what do you guys want to... You guys want to start a business at some point? You're 12, you want to do something, you want to learn a little bit how to do this. And you guys are always into this baseball swag. I mean, one of my boys looks more like Mr. T with all the necklaces this dude wears, But anyway, they were like, well, wait, yeah, we could sell this or that, or like cool necklaces or this, the swag. The baseball dudes are all into this. Like, I think your son plays. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On the same type of level, and they're like, and Dad, what do you do at work again? I'm like, I insure crane companies. And they're like, huh? What does that even mean? They're clueless. Dude, what does that have to do with baseball, Dad?
So let me get this straight. Yeah, Gene's priorities is this. Number 1, belief in Christ, and that's number 1. No, number 2, I'm going to live vicariously through my boys' baseball theatrics. And number 3, maybe family. And number 4, maybe being a crane insurance broker.
What's going on with the Dallas Cowboys? What's going on with the Mavs? What's going on with the Rangers? What's going on with the 11U Texas Oilers team? Oh, well, Jets on fire. This kid's in a slump. I could just recite it. So,
Well, you always got to get a plug in with a tribe, man.
Yeah. They're doing great. It's a blast. It's funny. We'll see where the business ends up. We'll see what they end up deciding to do, because it's time for them to start learning how to, live beyond, everything that Mom and I've provided. So let's get them a little bit further down the path. So,
all right. When you go to Baylor on baseball scholarships, you can have actually grinders on first, second, third base.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
3 ducks on a pond.
3 ducks on a pond, man. So back to backs.
Oh my God.
I always kind of end up a little bit about, movie reviews or TV, and interesting with all the streaming devices going on here. And I kind of looked in, is Hollywood dead? It's the changing viewing habits, especially for the younger people coming up. Money's not being put into big production movies right now. Since 2022, Hollywood is down 30% in staffing. So it's not a place. Another reason is so expensive for labor cost and produce films in Los Angeles and California. They're moving out. And Gene, what is the top streaming platform by TV viewership right now? I was surprised by this.
The top streaming
platform.
So, okay. Maybe Paramount Plus?
Could I take a crack at this, Ron?
Yeah, of course.
Is it YouTube?
Sir Isaac, you're underpaid, man. That is correct. YouTube's got 10%. Netflix is 3.1. YouTube is 3 times higher than the next closest. Amazon sense. Prime is 3, Hulu's 2. Internet streaming became the dominant form of TV in 25. They've got a bigger share of the market than the traditional network TVs. So streaming is where it's at. But I talked to my my youngest son, most of what he does is watch YouTube. Not YouTube TV, but YouTube.
That's me.
Yeah.
How do you do this? All right, let's ask YouTube. There's like 5 videos on how to do whatever you asked.
If you want to see actual footage of the Ukraine and the Russian war, you go to YouTube, and they've got actual footage. It's really crazy. So anyway, I'm thinking, because I love Hollywood movies, but we're seeing a really changing of the tide here. Everybody cut cable a long time ago. You didn't want 200 stations. You only watch 15. Now the streamers, and they're going to be consolidating, but YouTube has the market on that right now. Pretty cool. That's all I've got.
All righty. Billy, before we leave, what's a way someone can reach out to you if they have a question or want to follow up and connect with you?
If they want to follow up and connect with me, they can. My phone's always on at 214-549-3398 or billy@daviscraneservice.com.
And make sure you text Billy at midnight. That's usually when I'm just kidding. Don't text Billy at midnight.
Well, thank you for listening, and be sure that you subscribe and leave the show a 5-star review. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us by following the links in the show notes down below, and we will see you next time.